Hey everybody, welcome back to the Master Wing channel. Thank you for stopping by. It has been a while since we have recorded a Wingspan video, but don't give up on us. We have a special video for you today with a special celebrity guest. You see him, our fellow content creator, Knack Nestor. Knack Nestor, thank you for stopping by.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy to be considered a celebrity now.
Oh yes. Oh yes. We're pumped. We have the collab. This is the technical mastermind here, and we're gonna give our takes here of something that we haven't seen a whole lot of. Everybody has their own opinion or preference of birds they like to play, but have we really broken it down into point categories? So that's what this video is about. What are the best birds or your personal preference for the 0 point birds, the 1 point birds, two
hmm
points, etc.? So that's what we're going to break it down to. Let us know in the comments whether you agree, disagree, think we're crazy. But without further ado, I'm going to let Knack, our guest, go first. Knack, what is your best or favorite 0 point bird?
All right. Best 0 point bird to me, hands down, and I feel pretty strongly about this, lesser whitethroat. I think this bird we're talking about Oceania set. I think one, it's fun to play with. Two, I think this power to build around is so potent. I think when you start with this, even in round two, if you get this in round one, you're golden. But if you get this in round two, it is so good. And black red start is an honorable mention here, but that extra
Hmm.
food cost makes a huge difference. And the ability to play this in the forest, I've round one laid 4 eggs because this played in the forest and I didn't use any birds in the other rows. It's so strong, in my opinion. What do you think?
100% agree. It wasn't my pick. This is one of my honorable mentions, but I think we can both say that that can almost eliminate a need for a grassland in
hmm
Oceania.
It
Like you
can.
said, super strong. My pick for 0 point birds is back to the base game, and that is the OG Morning Dove.
I thought
Um,
so.
I yeah, I just like it. If I get this in my starting hand, it just
hmm
gives me confidence. Like, okay, we're gonna have a good game.
Yep.
There's not as much thinking involved. I think the lesser whitethroat, to your point, could be a hair better, but my personal preference, um, you get the morning dove, throw it somewhere, and you just know you're going to get eggs. So I just like the flexibility, and it makes the game easy for me.
So I actually thought about this too. The Morning Dove was my honorable mention of, is this in there? It's a better version of the scaled quail. The flexibility is the only thing that this has on the lesser whitethroat is that you can play this in your wetlands and you can just
Mhm.
draw you can draw 7 times and get, 5 full eggs or whatever. Not
Sure.
recommended, but you could. And I did some numbers comparing these two very quickly. This is pretty rough math, but like Morning Dove, in order to match the whitethroat, like you're not gonna activate this Morning Dove. I would say this lesser whitethroat. Let's say you get 2 birds in round one, which is pretty reasonable for whitethroat, and
Mhm.
then 4 birds in round two, and then 5 and 5, which is very doable with a whitethroat.
Mhm.
That's 16 eggs for free throughout the game.
Yeah,
Versus a Morning Dove, are you going to activate this 16 times? No.
probably not.
I'll just
Probably
answer
not.
that now. That is, if you're taking, if let's say the best case scenario is you put this in your forest and you activate your forest, you're probably going to activate that forest 10 to 12 times in a good forest engine if this
Hmm.
is your first bird. So that's why I went with the white throat because it just nets a bit more eggs. But the Morning
No,
Dove flexibility, it is pretty strong.
yeah. I think we're both in agreement. I think
Yeah,
power wise, we're okay.
yeah.
Can I go first for number one?
Do it. What do you got?
Okay. For our 1 point category, so for 0 point category, there was a pool of 14 birds. This one has 33 birds. And I was
hmm
surprised how many birds stuck out to me. There's a lot more, well, there's a lot of good 1 point birds out there.
A
So
lot.
I have like four honorable mentions, but I'll let you choose first. My number one for the 1 point category is the red-legged partridge, staring right at me from the European expansion. it just gives me so much confidence that if all else fails, I can just lay eggs and score at least 5 points.
Hmm.
If you had, I mean, sometimes you're devising these complicated strategies, but if I just get a bird on the top and a bird on the bottom, I mean, a lot of birds are passing out seeds. And so to get it down, it just gives me direction in my game. I mean, ultimately, it turns into a 3 point brown power, and there's just not a lot of brown powers that score 3 points.
Hmm.
So I think I've said it before, it's the instant engine, and it makes me lean towards, okay, now I got the direction of the game. I'm just going to build out my grassland.
Yeah. I actually didn't even have this in my honorable mentions. However, hearing you talk about it, I'm with you. I think this is, I may have overlooked this as as at least an honorable mention. The only reason I didn't consider it is because it is a 3 cost for 1 point. And when I think of 1 point birds, I'm thinking, what bird can I get down in my first round that gives me just like really easy, consistent power? So I actually could not pick. This is one of the categories. I have 3 choices, and
oh no,
it's my video, so sue me. But chipping sparrow. Same reason as mourning dove, except the ability to play on any bird. Typically, when you're just building a ridiculous forest engine, I think this is way better than the mourning dove because it says on any bird, and those end around powers where you need eggs on specific nests, or you just need eggs. Yeah, you just need eggs in other rows. This helps with those a lot more than mourning dove can.
True.
Costs the same, it's 1 point more. This is just the upgraded mourning dove, and I think mourning dove is insanely good. And the other 2 that I had to add, they basically do the same thing: yellow-rumped warbler and the robin.
Yes.
Where is that robin? I think it's above.
He's up somewhere.
But either way, American robin. To me, they really are the same bird. I mean, I guess this one qualifies for the birds with colors in their name, and like this one can go in the grasslands, so I guess I would give the up to the robin, because I think the ability to go in grasslands is a little better than the, grain cost. But but they are the same bird to me. The tuck one, draw one in the forest is where these really show their power. You could make an argument for robin in the grasslands, but like you have barn swallow, you have other options, but these 2 can go in the forest. And when you're taking food and you're cycling all the garbage cards that you have to like not have to choose between, do I want nectar and do I want that bird in the tray? Oh, I can get both. The robin and the warbler solve that problem, and I think that's why I couldn't choose, because laying eggs in the forest, super good. Tuck and draw in the forest, also super good. So
I like that. I think you make excellent points. Like I said, I was surprised how many good 1 point birds are out there. Let me mention my honorable mentions real quick, just because there were so many good ones. Like you said, I think the killdeer. I mean, it was mentioned in the Power 4 since the beginning of the inception of the game. The kookaburra, I have no justification. I just like kookaburras, and it's very flexible. and then the 2 down at the right there, the yellow throat. It's not a flashy power, but come on, 2 cards. And then I love playing the masked lapwing. It just feels like such a quick tempo play for the food boost. But ultimately, I'm still sticking with the red-legged partridge. I just had to mention those guys because they were good too.
So my honorable mention was Savi's warbler.
Okay. Yeah.
I think any bird that draws you an extra card is insanely good. This one draws 2, and I don't really, if I'm drawing 2 cards, I don't really care what I'm giving to my opponent. Like, yeah, take one off the deck. That's so minimal compared to like draw 2 out of the tray or off the deck. So Savi's warbler, that's crazy powerful.
I agree with you. Let's get your take on the 2 point category. It looks like there's 45 birds in this one. So good luck. What you think?
So this one, man, you're right. There were so many to choose from. What I ended up settling on was flexibility and consistency, as well as just overall, I think this bird is borderline overpowered. Um, I had to choose between the bird I chose, and I did not choose maned duck. Um, I think maned duck in your opening hand or in the first round can really just you can just destroy the game with a full tuck engine pretty quick. But I went with bush tit. I think this bird. You didn't. Did you choose the bush tit?
I did.
Yeah.
We didn't share lists. We didn't share lists before this, people. So we're in
Yeah.
agreement. Take it
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. Bush tit, man. You can put this if it's in your opening hand. You can put it in. I like to actually just put it in my wetlands and start drawing, and then tuck all the junk. Um, Bush tit also allows for either I can go full tuck off of starting bush tit, or I can build an engine in another row very easily because I'm just stacking eggs. It has 5 slots, so you can play this turn one and just draw 5 times, fill it, and then pivot to whatever you want. It just unlocks the game in your opening hand. Even if it's not in your opening hand, you draw it later. You can just slap it onto your current engine and tuck all the junk cards you've drawn. I mean, it's generally good to just draw a bunch of cards at the beginning of the game anyway. Super good bird. Super consistent. Always love to see it.
100% agree. Hit the nail on the head. I think it's an all-star. I like that we're not like automatically going towards Oceania birds. Like, ooh, Oceania is so bright and flashy and new, but we're still picking OG birds.
Yeah.
And this to me feels like a safety net. Like you said, when you're just digging and digging, all those extra cards can turn into 2 points. So the star nest, the bonus cards, it's excellent. What are your honorable mentions?
Oh, I mentioned Maine Duck already. Maine Duck just has, I've talked about this before, Maine Duck just has a crazy high ceiling. It just, it does what no other bird does. It gives you food out of your wetlands consistently. You can pair it with things like a whistling duck, and now you tuck 3 and then tuck 2 more. Out of 2 birds, that's pretty nuts. Yeah, Maine duck is my honorable mention. I also thought about, assuming black-shouldered kite hits every time, which it never does when I play, but if it hit every time, black-shouldered kite is insane. It's a cheaper red-legged partridge. Northern mockingbird, I thought about it, but really you need something to build around. So I don't know. What do you got? What honorable mentions did you have?
Yeah, I was gonna say the mockingbird if you have something good. I mean, super flexible, but also the white-backed woodpecker. It just kind of alleviates some of that pressure to gain food, and when I have that, I just know, okay, at least I'm done with the gaining 2 food. At least I can gain 3. And so to me, I mean, there's a lot of good tucking birds. We could go on and on. I mean, there's situational wagtails that's staring at me, but ultimately, I think bush takes the cake.
Yeah, the yellowhammer wagtail I thought about as well, but they're good. I just don't think they're quite as powerful as bush tit.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to number 3. I can't remember who went first, but I'll take it if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Okay. So number 3. We did count 66 birds in this category. I hope you've unlocked it. Surely you have. There's a lot of honorable mentions in this one, but I won't say them in case they're your pick. But my best number 3 was the chiffchaff. Really? Yes.
Interesting. Tell me more.
It could be more. Tell me more. So when it has a brown power that can potentially give you 5 points. Yeah, there's a lot of birds in this category. And I'm seeing a lot of my honorable mentions here. But, I mean, we're talking of what, 350 plus cards? I want to say 356 cards. And when people are specifically digging for this one card, I think it speaks to its power. If you have wasted turns in the beginning, all of a sudden you turned all those wasted turns into points for the chiffchaff. I mean, I can't think of many brown powers that can score 5 points by itself. And so I just went all in on power. and that's why it takes the cake. I know there's other, this can be situational,
Mhm.
but the Chiff Chaff for me, I couldn't ignore it.
Okay. That did not make my honorable mention list. I thought about it and
Really,
I was like, Chiff Chaff, you really need
that's
to
good.
have you need, like, to me, even in full tuck situations, like, I hear you, it goes in the forest. I think that's the best use case for it, where it's like you've got a bunch of spare cards and you play it in the forest and now you can tuck them. Um, there are situations where you play, I guess I don't play like this very often, where I've like play two draw birds and then I've just got a ton of cards and then I
Oh,
play it in the wetlands and then I just
mhm.
keep tucking the whole game. So that's probably a good use case for it that I just don't take advantage of enough, probably. But I did notice in tier three, this is the one where it was actually kind of easy to narrow through all the garbage birds. I feel like there's a lot of tier three birds that are just bad, like Barred Sparrow, Squako Heron, Canada Goose, Double Crested Cormorant. I mean, they're all just very niche situational birds. Brewer's Blackbird can be pretty underwhelming. And there's even some that I haven't even unlocked, but my number one for this is similar in vibe, where you've drawn a bunch of extra cards, you don't know what to do with them, is Noisy Miner. I think this bird does what you just described, where it's like, okay, I've got all these extra bird cards that I don't know what to do with, and then it's like, oh, I can just play this, and now I can turn them all into tucks and eggs. And the tempo hit or gain that you get when you draw a Noisy Miner can be so powerful. I mean, I've played Noisy Miner in like mid round three and still gotten 4 tucks and 8 eggs out of it.
Right.
And so I think this one, I've I've never used this in the grasslands, but I did have a use case for that the other day that I kind of overlooked in a tournament game. But I mean, I think this bird is pretty underrated and it's still rated highly. Like, that's what I feel about the Noisy Miner.
Yeah. I like it. That was in my honorable mention.
Hmm.
I also had the California Quail, but I think
Hmm.
the Noisy Miner is a step above. And then that Franklin's Gull on the left there used to be my favorite card in the game, in the
Yep,
base game.
me too.
Um, I mean, if you're starting Wingspan, try the Franklin's Gull with the
Yeah,
Star Nest, put it in the grassland, draw cards. It was good.
yep.
But let us know in the comments. I like our different approaches here. I think Noisy Miner is awesome,
Hmm.
but I also think the Chiff Chaff is awesome. So let
Yep.
us know what you think, guys.
As an honorable mention, I just had one for my tier threes, Moltoni's Warbler. I think this is the best of the three playabirds, just because it's a diverse food cost. So
Hmm.
it's easier to get down and it's 3 points. And I generally like to play these in the grasslands anyway. So,
Yeah.
and I just really like playing with this bird. But
All right. Let's move on to number 4. This is the biggest selection or biggest pool of birds at 81 different birds that are worth 4 points. So, Knack, good luck with this one. I will let you go first.
as
Who
much
is
as
your top? Who's your top pick?
so as much as there were 84 picks, this was the easiest choice. Wood duck. 100%. It's my favorite bird in the game. Or rather, it's what I think is the strongest bird in the game right now. You can get it a little late into round 2, and it's still just insane.
Hmm.
My strongest, most oppressive games of Wingspan have been played with Wood Duck because you can control the feeder really well, and you can control the tray really well at the same time. It I don't know. If you're playing against a good Wood Duck, there's not a lot you can do.
100%. That was my pick as well.
Yeah.
We're in agreement on this one. I think if you get it in your starting hand, I mean it's almost undefeated.
Yep.
With the nectar availability, you almost eliminate the need for wetlands. And there was a lot of, I mean, you see mute swan, Toledo woodpecker.
Yeah.
Back in the day, Chihuahuan raven is
Yep.
probably still better on the base game. But in Oceania, wood duck takes the cake. I had one honorable mention, and that was strangely, this might sound weird. There was a lot of bonus card birds out there, but for the 4 point birds was the kakapo. Just
Yeah.
because I've had a lot of success, it kind of gives me that end game kicker.
Yep.
And you see the warbler, you see the finches, and the king rail. There's a lot of bonus cards out there, but because you get to draw four or draw three, what does it say?
Draw
Draw
four.
four. Yeah. Draw four, keep one, discard three. I just turn that bird into 8 points a lot of times. But to your point, the wood duck is my number one as well. Did
Yep.
you have any honorable mentions?
Honorable mention was Mute Swan for me.
Okay.
I've had games where Mute Swan's in my opening hand, and I don't think it's quite as oppressive as Wood Duck because with Mute Swan, if you're building full tuck, you're generally just like, here you can win the end of rounds. Here you can have all the nectar. So Mute Swan isn't quite as you can deny the tray pretty effectively, but like Wood Duck, you can deny both. You can just leave them with a crap feeder, or you can leave them with a crap tray, or both. So yeah, I just had to go with Wood Duck.
All right. Let's move on to our 5-point birds. So there is a little bit of a bell curve here. There's a pool of 55,
Yep.
and it may be a little bit of a surprise, but not really. My pick is the common raven. I know it got nerfed in Oceania. I think you passed it. It's up a little bit. Along with the bonus card stuff. Oh, you just passed it again. Now it's down.
No, I didn't. You passed it. You're the one in control. Okay, there we go.
Oh yeah, sure. I like again that we're going back to the beginning. This was in the conversation of best birds. Like I said, I don't think personally that it's very satisfying to discard an egg and gain 2 food.
Right.
I think this is more of like a delayed satisfaction. You don't get that immediate dopamine hit of just like, man, I just did something awesome. But when you look back and you're like, man, I played 14 birds, and then you kind of trace it back, it was all due to big raven energy. And so to me, I think it just edged out everything else, because when you have that bird, you just feel powerful. You're going to win a lot of those nectar battles. That's my number one for tier 5.
So, sober judgment, you're right. Like, I probably should have picked Common Raven as well. And like I had it written down. I was like, that's so boring. I don't want to pick Raven.
I know.
But like even in Oceania, I've had builds where I'm getting a ton of eggs out of my forests, and then I play a Raven in my forest. And it's kind of rare that I do that, but I've done it, and it's like, wow, that's also still insane.
Sure.
I also just played a European game for the tournament that's playing both sets, and I got double Raven, and my God, when you have 2 Ravens in your grasslands and you lay 3 eggs, ditch 2 of them, and get 4 food, even without nectar, it is just insane. And now that you only get 2 eggs all the way until the final slot, it's not quite what it used to be, but it's still just so strong. However, it's not what I picked. I didn't want to be basic about it, so I went with Abbott's Booby. I love a good point bomb, because here's why I picked Abbott's Booby. Okay, if I'm looking at my opening hand, yeah, I want the Raven. But any time I'm drawing cards throughout the game, I'm not always picking Raven. In fact, sometimes I'm drawing it just to deny it and then tuck it, or sometimes I leave it and I'm like, yeah, it's a trap card, you take it. Abbott's Booby is never... I'm never disappointed that I drew Abbott's Booby. This bird you can have... It gives you a safety net for all of your other bonus card birds you draw throughout the game. I'm stashing it, and then I'm drawing as many bonus cards as I can, and then I'm ditching a 0 and hopefully drawing like 2 6s. Like this bird is so powerful as a point bomb, and it's only a 5-point bird. So yeah, I went with that.
Playing the Booby, that's a strong move. I was more basic, but I can see Booby. The thing is, to me, like you still only get to keep 1, and you have to discard 2. I just don't know if it's the ultimate. My honorable mention for the 5, this is purely bias, is the gray butcher bird. If you've seen my channel, I I am a butcher with that butcher bird. I love it. It's so satisfying to get a tuck and cash. I used to be all about the peregrine falcon, but if you miss on the butcher bird one time and then you hit the next time, I mean, obviously 2 points, you kind of made up ground. And so to me, my algorithm is busted. I am so successful with this bird. I just can't put it over the common raven. So
Yeah.
that was my honorable mention.
Come on, Butcher Bird Butch.
That's what I say. That's what I'm talking about.
When we were doing our 2v2s, I remember you saying that. My honorable mention was Gala. Or sorry, I've been corrected on this in comments before. It is Gala. That's how it is supposed to be said. Let's see. Hold on. Is that what this does? Yeah. Hold on. Let's do that again. Gala. Yeah, that's what she says too. Anyway.
Come on.
Anyway, I like this bird. I think it's
good.
It's super good. If it's in my opening hand, I do think I'm gonna have 20 tucks on this by the end of the game, and it's you're gonna get 10 grain off of me, and I don't think that unless you have something that scales with grain really really well, like a good counter to it is the Canada goose, believe it or not, and the sandhill crane, because then you're just getting those 2 tucks back. But other than those niche situations, I think this bird is just insane. You can get so many points out of it.
Yeah, it's a good co-op bird too. If you have like a house sparrow or something, you can give it to your teammates. So,
yep.
I like it. That was what, tier 5. Let's go to the 6-pointers. So we're getting less and less. There's 27 birds in this selection. Knack, I can't remember who went first, but I'll give you first pick. What you got?
So now we're kind of getting into point bomb territory. I'm less thinking about engines and more thinking about how many points this is going to get me by playing it. I won't share my honorable mention first. I'll just say I went with Woodstork, back to the beginning. And the reason is because there are plenty of these point bombs like Black Swan and Whooping Crane, Roseate Spoonbill, and all of these are good, but Woodstork qualifies for the best bonus cards. It is a large bird, it's an omnivore, it eats fish, it plays in the wetlands only, and it's rodentologist. And all of these other ones aren't those things. And that's why I went with Woodstork over them.
Yeah, I think you've convinced me that yours is a little better than mine. To be honest, I think my honorable mention was the Whooping Crane just because of the ease of playing it. Sure. But the Woodstork with the rodentologist thing, I totally get it. My 6-pointer was strangely, or not so strange, we'll see what you think, is the European Goldfinch.
I thought about this.
I think the meta just gravitates towards tucking birds.
Yep.
And maybe you do play this and your 1v1 opponent just doesn't tuck anything and it's like a 5 or 6 point bird with the egg cost, and you're like, man, that was kind of a waste. But in the majority of my games, it just deters my opponent from tucking. Sure. I don't have to have an extra card to do it. And I think it's like a slow bleeding effect with this guy where it just ticks away, and then all of a sudden it's like a 9 or 10 point bird for me. So I like that one out of the 6-pointers.
Yeah, I think this has the effect that everyone expected out of the Spangled Drongo, where like Spangled Drongo is like, oh, you can't take nectar now, but I have found when playing against a Spangled Drongo, just take nectar anyway. Rather, just if there's a plethora of nectar, just make sure you're taking more than they get. Nectar. Get a plethora of nectar. Anyway, but yeah, so this is the same thing. It deters but this one very, very directly. You can't tuck. I mean, you have to tuck at least 2 for it to be worth it. So, right. And I'm with you. If this is like my late round 1 play or like early round 2, I think that's the sweet spot where you've got a food source already, and now you just get free points out of it the rest of the game. My honorable mention was North Island Brown Kiwi.
Oh yeah.
This bird, same thing as Abbott's Booby. You can just turn even just like a 4-point bonus card into 2 4-point bonus cards. Like that's the worst use case, right? Like
Yeah.
you're very rarely not getting a replacement for that bonus card you discarded. And look at how freaking awkward this bird looks. They're so hilarious.
It's one of a kind.
It is such a unique looking. It's like a tiny little dinosaur. But
It's
anyway,
crazy.
so yeah, this and
No.
also being a star nest and being a star wingspan, those
Yep.
are surprisingly useful in the bonus cards. Yeah, this is also a
Yeah.
point bomb that I never don't want to play, but I just figured this was just just a little bit more, just because of all the bonuses it applies to. So
Yeah. I like the Kiwi. It can turn my bonus card category from terrible to awesome,
yeah.
just like you said. Just a big turnaround. So
Mhm.
let's go to the 7 pointers. So we're at what 18 birds in this pool. Like you said, we are
Yep.
getting more towards bird bomb territory. This one is probably my biggest surprise of the list when I was scanning through these. I have 3 honorable mentions
Okay.
that we will save for later, but I am going with the dreaded or beloved Rufus Owl. That's what
Ooh.
I'm talking about. The Rufus Owl, I am more of a predator player, and I know the Imperial Eagle is sitting right next to it,
Mhm.
but the consistency of this bird, being able to look at the tray and know that you're getting guaranteed points, that it's under 75 centimeters,
Mhm.
you're going to get it down with the use of nectar, and I just think it eliminates the chance. I'm building up more of a forced engine. Sometimes well, I won't take the thunder of some of these other birds, but I like the consistency of it. And the
Mhm.
7 points, all of a sudden, by the end of the game, if I get this down early, it turns into 10 or 11. So
Yep.
I'm going with the Rufus Owl. I know it looks weird, but I'm all about it.
Looks weird. I think he's cute. Have you seen that?
Weird,
Remember we had
weird.
that?
He's creepy. Yeah, we've talked about
We
this.
talked about how this artwork makes them, and even in real life, they look like they're like demon birds. Like
Yeah.
they look possessed.
And in the
But
animation, he's just kind of like,
yeah,
yeah,
I think they're cute in kind of a, twisted way. But I'm with you. This is a very, very good bird. I considered it, but I did not select it. I went with Eastern Imperial Eagle. I can't. It's just so. It's just so good for what it does. The fact that you can trade your cards in for it just makes it so easy to play for a
Mhm.
10-point bomb. It's the easiest 10-point bomb. It plays in the fact that it only plays in your grasslands is actually kind of a good thing, because then it qualifies for that grassland data analyst or not grassland data.
Prairie Manager. Yeah.
Prairie Manager, thank you. Qualifies for Prairie Manager, qualifies for Falconer, qualifies for Rodentologist. There was one game I can remember where I didn't play it and I was shocked that it wasn't the highest point value in my hand, but because it almost always is the highest point value card in your hand when you've got it. When it comes to like end of the game planning, is like I want to play this, I want to play this. It's just because I had like 4 other bonus cards that it didn't contribute towards, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm not playing an eagle for the first time in my life. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
it's an awesome bird. It's hard to argue with. I love those falcon powers.
Yeah.
What were your honorable mentions?
So my honorable mention for fun, Little Penguin. I don't think it's actually as good. It's just so fun to play it because it could. It's the Family Guy meme. It could be anything. It could be a boat. Like it's if you don't know that reference, just YouTube that real quick. You'll get it. But yeah, Little Penguin is just fun. And then in all seriousness, great egret. It's so good. Like if you can use it, it's usually just a massive point bomb.
Yeah.
Can't always use it, don't always have the food access for it, but if you can use it, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Turns like an 8 or 9 point bird into like a 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my honorable mentions: Little Penguin, like you said, probably the most fun bird in the game. Blue Throat for the European expansion. I know it's not flashy, but it has saved me so many turns in the long run. And then in the base game, kind of an odd pick, but I have a video specifically about this card, the Greater Roadrunner. I have more success than I think, and it has a lot of bonus card qualifications with Rodentologist, Prairie Manager, Diet Specialist, Omnivore, Falconer. So those are my honorable mentions, but I'm still sticking with Rufus Owl. It's more of an engine bird, and your bird was more of a bomb.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy with all those selections.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how much you and I have, like, on these last rounds have been like, what's the best engine versus what's the best bomb? Where, like, I am looking at what's the best bomb, and I think that's interesting to see our philosophies of what are the best birds. I also thought about this wedge-tailed eagle, just for the flexibility and the ability it can, like, that will hit 1 or 2 times throughout the game. I have had, I have a video that showed that I activated this 9 times once and it hit 6 times. So,
really?
Yeah, 12 points. It was a full tuck engine and I just threw it in as my third bird. It's my full tuck Predators video. Insane RNG on this for that one. But anyway, let's move on to 8.
Let's do it.
Yeah. What do you got?
So this is not a surprise. I can't ignore it. This is not a bandwagon pick. I have to say it. It's big Benelli Eagle energy. For the similar bird that you just mentioned, I think it's one of the few birds, if only. Well, I can't say if only because there's always an exception. But you can play this in just about any scenario, and it's a good play. It does take a little bit of the thinking out of the game. But if you have 3 extra cards, which is usually easy to do, you can play in any habitat for your end of round goal. Some have said it's the best card in the game. It totally takes the wind out of your sails when someone else plays this. At least that's how I feel. And yeah, it's just plain good. There's good birds, and then there's really good birds. And I think when they introduced Benelli's, how many people have won a game or even stolen a game just by playing Benelli's Eagle? So I like it.
I have. I have done that. I'm with you. It's on my... This is the second category where I just couldn't pick. I couldn't settle on one.
Really?
Benelli's is one of mine. We just talked about how you were looking at engines and I was looking at bombs. We flipped. I went with White Stork because as the engine, this bird, even in a bad grasslands era, this bird is still so good to have in your grasslands. It also, even if you have to use it in your wetlands, it's still insanely good. I mean, 8 points, omnivore, the fishery manager, diet specialist, even the multi-category, or what is it, birds that can play in multiple habitats. Bird bander. I never used that bird, or never used that card that much, but it's just so good. I've turn 1 just put this in my wetlands because I just didn't want to play grasslands that game, and so I was like, I'll just draw 2 and then sure, flip. That's still insane. White Stork, even if all you have to do is just play it at the end for a bomb, it's still an 8-point bomb that probably contributes to your bonus card. So I just did this for consistency. Puffin, you can't ignore the Puffin. You always, if you're playing a Puffin at any point in the game, you're correct. Like, it's right up there with Benelli's, where it's like, you're never wrong to play it. So I picked all 3 of them. I couldn't settle on one. Again, it's my video, leave me alone. But, so, yeah.
No,
I couldn't decide.
My honorable mentions were the Puffin. I don't know if there's any other Star Nest. Probably not. The White Stork, such a good brown power. Like you said, to be able to reset the tray. I haven't had people rage quit against me, but I have had some serious rants on the Discord server after I spam White Stork so bad, and it's just satisfying to score 130 points with the White Stork. Golden Eagle, Great Horned Owl, like you said, it's tough to pick out of this category because they're they're getting played more at the beginning of the game instead of towards the end with Oceania.
Yeah.
So this was a tough category. There was 10 birds. I'm going with Benelli's white stork. Let us know in the comments what you think.
Yeah.
Let's go to the last 9-point category. There's only 7 birds here, so maybe with our honorable mentions we might talk about all of them, but I will let you go first. What do you got?
I went with black crowned night heron. I This was actually a tough choice. And not because I think this is a tough choice because there are so many 8-point birds that I would rather play than these. But so really, I think the 9-point birds are actually not among the strongest in the game. Like they just don't have as much value. But I went with black crowned night heron because usually you're playing these for the bomb potential. I think this bird's brown power is a little underwhelming. It's not useless, I will say, but it also, being a rodent in its cost and a fish, and then this little flexibility if you wanna use it for that power, that is something you can do. But really, I just think all of these birds are they're good to play. You're never wrong for trying to play a point bomb or just trying to play a raw 9 points, but they just don't punch, in my opinion. And so I just went with the one that contributes to the most bonus cards, if you will.
Yeah, well said. I can see your point. It helps with that engine category as well. This was tough to choose, even though there's 7. Like you said, they're not my first pick.
Yeah.
But I almost went basic with the trumpeter swan, give me omnivore expert, and then I leaned towards the black naughty, so naughty because it's a tucking power.
Yep.
But then I was like, the 3 fish, sometimes even with nectar that can be difficult, and I don't have a wetland engine, so I don't really activate it that much. So my number 1 was the basic or original base game Baltimore Oriole.
Yeah.
It gains extra food. Yeah, I'm sharing with everybody, but I think it's the only star nest bird in this category, and I can't tell you how many times that star nest has saved me. Just at the end, you're wondering what your opponent is saving for their bird bomb, and I've seen this flop so many times for viticulturist and whatever type of nest bonus card you have. And then if you play it early, I mean, the extra food isn't bad either.
Yeah.
So I went with the good old Baltimore Oriole.
This is my honorable mention, Baltimore Oriole. And
Really?
as I was talking it through, I was like, the only thing this doesn't have that the Baltimore Oriole does is the star nest. And then you mentioned viticulturalist. I was like, oh yeah, that's just as good as fishery manager, if not better for some people. So, this is your fishery manager, this is your viticulturalist, this is all of the nest types, and then this is platforms, which, to be fair, I think of the nest types, when it comes to bonus cards, platforms is the best one, I'm going to say. Only because I think of the pied little cormorant, I think is what it's called. The one that lays on all your platforms. I think that's the best yellow power that lays on all your nest types. So, I think that's comparable, but I do think that Star Nest is better. And then, the brown power is better. So I think you actually kind of changed my mind here that, I think Baltimore Oriole is better. I think you're right.
It was tough to choose, but I could see both plays. All right, guys, that concludes the list. This was a very fun and exciting video, in my opinion. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of content that divides them in point values. So very interesting to get Knack's take. Knack, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for the idea. Happy to play editor.
Guys, we have come to the climax. We have Forget this.
Let's cut it, and then let's
do an outro.
That's definitely going into the blooper reel.
What you think? If you would be as so kind. If you would
be as so kind.
Yeah. But if you want to cut off after you say thanks, guys, or whatever, for allowing me to make the video or whatever you said, and then just flash to that screen. If you would forget it, done. I do want to get a subscribe note in there because if we make this good content, then people forget. You know.
You know what? I got an idea. I got an idea. Let me.
Would you be as to so kind to subscribe?
Oh,
well,
you know
we had a good couple sentences. I was just gonna say, all right, guys, everybody, peace, subscribe.
Yeah. We have come to a climax, huh?
No, we've eclipsed. We've done like so many things.